All right, how is everyone doing today? Welcome to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. This is an educational channel. We check into great theories and concepts and discoveries that would really help you. If you only knew about them, they would change your life in terms of your mental, spiritual, and physical health practices. But these are things that have been suppressed, and you may not know about them. And this is another Bible Decode, number 424. And we have spent most of our time chopping up the New Testament and especially looking into the Roman origins hypothesis, which I would say is well beyond a hypothesis, maybe not all the way to a law, but it is that the Romans, the Caesars of the Flavian dynasty of Caesars, are the true authors of the New Testament. And the New Testament was written as a psychological operation against the Jews. It was an anti Semitic document from the start, and it was an attempt to basically destroy the Jewish religion, such as it was. I would argue that the Jewish religion was no kind of religion anyway, but the Romans felt like the Jews needed to be tamped down, to be tamed or domesticated, because in over 100 years of occupation, the Romans had had a constant headache with the Jews revolting, insurrecting, rioting, uprising, and revolt. I said revolting. Uh, and This culminated in the war that happened from 66 until 73 AD. Took the Romans 7 years to put down the revolt in Jerusalem. They had to send in several of the Roman legions under General Vespasian, and then his son, General Titus, once Vespasian was promoted to emperor, and eventually Titus becomes the second emperor in the Flavian dynasty of Caesars, and then eventually his younger brother Domitian is the third of that triumvirate. Um, these are the Caesars who created the story of Jesus, and they didn't create it out of whole cloth. Like most psychological operations, the New Testament was a limited hangout, meaning that there is plenty of useful, righteous, and uplifting stuff in the Bible, in the New Testament. They have to put that in there to make it look good. But mixed in, there is a lot of poison pills, riddles, jokes, enigmas, ridicule, derision, uh, debauchery at your expense if you are a believer. You are being mocked by the New Testament of the Bible if you believe it. And this is a psychological operation that continues until today. But it was primarily enacted in the first century, late period first century. The story of Jesus was written and backdated by 40 or 50 years, put back into the 20s and 30s AD, starting in the 15th year of the reign of Emperor Tiberius. And that is why Jesus's prophecies, some of them actually came true. But in order to see that, you have to look at another book, which is a companion book to the Gospels, which is called The War of the Jews by Josephus. Now, Christians usually cite Josephus as a secular writer who corroborates the existence of Jesus. But unfortunately, most Christians who cite that have never read Josephus, because if they had, they would recognize that Josephus is powerful evidence against the existence of Jesus, because he fits right into the psychological operation of the Romans. Josephus was known as Flavius Josephus, meaning that he was a member of the Flavian dynasty of Caesars. By adoption, he lived at Caesar's palace, and he was one of the court historians for the Flavians. And they commissioned him to write this history in 7 volumes and gave him their full endorsement to his work. And when you sit Josephus's work side by side with the Gospels, you will see literally a myriad of different parallels between the two. I'm talking myriad, like a myriad I think is 10,000. Well, it's at least 1,000. There are countless parallels between the two. Some of them are really thick descriptions, multiple motifs with every parallel. Michael Menescotz, in his book Christianity's Origin as a Flavian Secrecy Cult, actually graphed out the over 250 parallels that he found in just the book of Luke between the War of the Jews and the book of Luke. And lo and behold, that graphing created 5 near perfect letters in Latin, APTVS. That is the signature, Latin being the language of the Roman Caesars, and APTVS meaning probably Arius Piso Titus Vespasian or Vespasianus. And meaning that the Romans literally signed their names, or at least put their initials, on the book of Luke, so that one day it would be discovered. And that day is here. And so if you are a truther, you would be remiss to not check this out. Don't believe me, just go check it out yourself. Get yourself a copy of Josephus for free online and compare it with your book of Luke. Start with Titus's military campaign in Judea and compare it with Jesus's ministry in Judea, and you will find carbon copies. But anyway, for today, what we are looking at is some of the sources that the Romans used to construct the Gospels. And this was documented by an author named Kersey Graves. Way back in 1876, he wrote a book called 16 Crucified Saviors Before Christianity. And he looks at all of the coincidental similarities between many ancient religions and Christianity. Noting first that the other religions came before Christianity did. And it appears as if Christianity lifted up and or plagiarized a lot of these different sources. In particular, Krishna of India from 1200 BC appears to have the same story as Jesus in over 300 different aspects. He documented that in the previous chapter. Now we're in chapter 34, um, and this is about miracles, prophecies, and moral precepts. And we're about to start the part on the moral precepts. Moral precepts, the third pillar of the Christian faith. It is declared, in view of the many wise precepts which issued from the mouth of Jesus Christ, that he spake as never man spake, in John 7:46. If this were true, then gods must have been very numerous prior to the Christian era. For there is not one of the moral maxims or preceptive commands which he gave utterance to that cannot be found literally or substantially in the older Bibles, with a small b, meaning books, the older books of the other nations, or the writings of the Greek philosophers, and the religious dissertations of heathen moralists who gave out moral and religious lessons for the instruction of the world long prior to the birth of Jesus Christ. Even the Golden Rule, which Christian writers, ignorant of Oriental history, have erroneously ascribed to Jesus Christ and lauded him as being the author of, is found variously expressed in the writings of several heathen or Oriental nations. We find it in the Chinese Bible, at least 500 years older than ours, almost word for word as Jesus uttered it. We will here present it as expressed by different writers. Now, I would contend that the golden rule is fool's gold, as it states that you should do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And to me, that is not a rule, because a rule is something that you follow every time. And that is not suitable for a rule, because doing unto others as you would have them do unto you does not work if you are a sadomasochist. If you are a sadomasochist, then you want to be beaten up. You want to be, treated roughly, tied up and whipped. And I don't want you to do that to me. So I want to opt out of your golden rule if you're a sadomasochist. Now, if it's stated in the negative, do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you, then it makes sense to me. So I would consider the golden rule to be fool's gold and a poison pill. Now, section 1 here is called Golden Rule by Confucius, 500 BC. Do unto another what you would have him do unto you. This is a quote. Do unto another what you would have him do unto you, and do not to another what you would not have him do unto you. Thou heedest this law alone. It is the foundation of all the rest. End quote. So I guess that is a quote from Confucius. He seems to have both sides of that equation there. Golden Rule by Aristotle, 385 BC. And that's not quite an accurate date. Aristotle lived a little bit later than that, if you even believe that Aristotle actually lived, because I uh, I personally believe that Aristotle maybe actually did live, but that most of his writings were written by the Romans. Um, in a much later period, in this exact period, first century AD. But anyway, it says 385 BC. I'm pretty sure Aristotle was born in 384 BC. And so his writings were in the later 4th century BC. But he says we should conduct ourselves toward others as we would have them act toward us. The Golden Rule by Pittacus, who I'm not familiar with. That says 650 BC. So maybe he was a very ancient Roman or a Greek. Do not to your neighbor what you would take ill from him. And the Golden Rule by Thales, the ancient Greek, 464 BC. Avoid doing what you would blame others for doing. I like that. And this is the Golden Rule by Isocrates, Isocrates, with an I, 338 BC. Act toward others as you desire them to act toward you. That seems like it's got the poison pill in it. The Golden Rule by Aristippus, and that Arista, beginning of his name, tips me off that he might be a Roman. But this is supposed to have dated from 365 BC. Cherish reciprocal benevolence, which will make you as anxious for another's welfare as your own. And this is a Golden Rule by Sextus, a Pythagorean, approximately 400 BC. What you wish your neighbors to be to you, such be also to them. And this is the early Jewish Pharisee named Hillel, approximately 50 BC. I think Hillel was a little bit later than that. But it says, do not to others what you would not like others to do to you. So it's interesting. Of those 8, several of them figured out the poison fool's golden rule, and stated it in the negative instead of the positive. Okay, so here is his summary here. Here is the Golden Rule proclaimed by 7 heathen moralists and a Jew long before it was republished by the founder of Christianity, thus proving it to be of heathen origin and proving that it does not transcend the natural capacity of the human brain to originate, and hence needs no God to reveal it. Indeed, it is one of the most natural sentiments of the human mind. Would I like to be treated thus? Is the first thought which naturally rises in the mind of a person when maltreating a neighbor, thus showing that the Golden Rule is a spontaneous utterance of the moral feelings of the human mind. Okay, and now this section is called Love and Kind Treatment of Enemies. Love to enemies is considered to be another praiseworthy precept, which Christ has erroneously the credit of being the author of. We have heard the declaration made in the Christian pulpit that Jesus Christ was the first moral teacher who inculcated love to enemies, a most transcendent error, as the following historical citations will show. Most of the religious books and religious teachers of the ancient Oriental heathen breathe forth a spirit of love and kindness toward enemies. Following is from the old Persian Bible, the Satyr, quote, forgive thy foes, nor that alone, their evil deeds with good repay. Fill those with joy who leave thee none, and kiss the hand upraised to slay. The Christian Bible would be searched in vain to find a moral sentiment or precept superior to this. Certainly, it is the loftiest sentiment of kindness toward enemies that ever issued from human lips or was ever penned by mortal man. And yet it is found in an old heathen Bible with a small b. Think of kissing the hand upraised to slay. Never was love and kindness and forbearance toward enemies more sublimely expressed than in the old Persian ballad. Quote, treat thine enemy as though a friend, and he will become thy friend, was expressed by Publius Syrus, a Roman slave, which is a wiser admonition than that of Christ. Love thine enemy, as it is a moral impossibility. And yeah, that's kind of how I had learned it from kind of the ancient Egyptian tree of life, which is that you love your enemies until you have no enemies. And then number 3 is all nature cries aloud. Shall man do less than heal the smiter and the railer bless? And that's from Hafiz, a Muslim. And this one is bridle thine anger and forgive thine enemy. Give unto him who takes from thee. And that is also is from the Quran. Now, the Quran is much later than the Bible, so I'm not sure why he's putting this here. But hopefully we'll get back to some older writings. Let no man be offended with those who are angry at him, but reply gently to those who curse him. And this is from the Code of Menu, which I don't know the date of that. And he doesn't provide it. Let him endure injuries and despise no one. It's also from the Code of Menu. And so is this. Commit no hostile action for your own preservation. This one is from Diogenes. To be revenged on enemies, become more virtuous. And here's from the Persian book, the Zendavesta. To strike a man or vex him with words is a sin. And another is even the intention to strike is a sin. And this is from Confucius. Desire not death of thine enemy. And more Confucius. Acknowledge benefits, but never revenge injuries. More Confucius yet. We may dislike an enemy without desiring revenge. And here's some more Publius Syrus, the Roman slave. Pardon the offenses of others, but never your own. And more from Publius. The noble spirit cures injustice by forgiving it. And Pythagoras says, it is much better to be injured than to kill a man. And more from Publius Syrus. You can accomplish by kindness what you cannot by force. And more Publius. Better overlook an injury than avenge it. And some more. It is enough to think ill of an enemy without avenging it. And it is a kingly spirit to return good deeds for evil ones. And that is more Publius Syrus. This is Hafiz, the Muslim. Again, this is from a later period than Jesus, so not sure why he's putting it in here, but it says, learn from you, Orient shell, to love thy foe, and store with pearls the hand that brings thee woe. Flee like you rock from base, vindictive pride, emblaze with gems the wrist that rends thy side. Pythagoras says, to revenge yourself on an enemy, make him your friend. And Socrates says, it is not permitted to a man who has received an injury to revenge it by doing another. The Quran says, seek him who turns thee out and pardon him who injures thee. Socrates says, return not evil for evil. Sextus says, endure all things if you would serve God. And desire to be able to benefit your enemies. Publius Syrus says, receive an injury rather than do one. And he says, be at war with men's vices, but at peace with their persons. And Pittacus says, cultivate friendship for an enemy, and be kind to your friends that they may continue so, and to your enemies that they may become so. And prevent injuries if possible. If not, do not revenge them. And Seneca says, an enemy should not be hated, but cured. And Seneca is one of the, if it's Seneca the Younger, I'm not sure which Seneca he's referring to, but Seneca the Younger was one of the authors of the New Testament. He is one of the conspirators that the Romans, that originally wrote the Ur Marcus, the original book of Mark. And he was executed for it by Nero in 65 AD, even though he was originally Nero's tutor when Nero was a young boy. But he and the rest of the conspirators approached Nero about writing up this new Roman universal religion. And Nero had a wife who was very sympathetic to the Jews, and so he wouldn't go for it. And so as a result, they tried to kill Nero, and Nero found out about it, and so he killed them. He killed Seneca, he killed Lucius or Gnaeus Piso, and he killed Lucan, the poet, and a few others. Executed them. Okay. This is from Antonius. To act unkindly toward an enemy will increase his hate. And he says, be to everybody kind and friendly. And Pittacus says, speak evil of no one, not even your enemies. Okay, that's a list of 36 precepts that resemble the love your enemies from Jesus. And most of them are much older than the Bible, though not all. Thus, it will be observed that love and kindness toward all mankind, both friends and enemies, is not confined to the teachings of Christ or to the Christian religion, as many have erroneously supposed, but is unquestionably a natural sentiment of the moral instinct, of moral impulses of the human mind, and hence is no proof that their teacher is either a god or divinely inspired. And we have in our possession nearly 800 more precepts from the pens or mouths of the ancient heathen, which he documents in volume 2 of this work, enjoining just and kind treatment of women, and setting forth nearly all the duties of life, and teaching the immortality of the soul, etc. And these precepts breathe the same lofty moral sentiment and moral feeling as those quoted above. How ignorant and how conceited must be the Christian professor who supposes all goodness is confined to Christianity, or that it even possesses any great superiority over other religious systems, and how completely the three foregoing parts of this chapter, miracles, prophecies, and precepts, prostrate the divine claims of Christianity and leave not an inch of ground for them to rest upon. Indeed, because Christianity was created by the Caesars, and it has no validity in facts. It was a fictional story as a psychological operation against the Jews. And we need to all get that straight. The evidence is overwhelming, and the evidence that opposes it is completely lacking. That is the end of chapter 34 of this book. Chapter 35 is called Logical or Common Sense View of the Doctrine of Divine Incarnation. And we'll check into that chapter when we return tomorrow. Meanwhile, like, share, subscribe, comment, and contribute. And we will return tomorrow with episode 425 of the Bible Decode series. Thanks for tuning in today, and have a great day.